Okay, you're on the chair.
All right. Good morning. We are on the record in case number 2024-0050, electronic application of Mantle Rock Solar, LLC for a certificate of construction for an approximately 42-megawatt merchant electric solar generating facility in Livingston County, Kentucky. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chairman of the Kentucky Public Service Commission. I am joined this morning, the Public Service Commission, as well as the Kentucky State Board on Electric Generation and Transmission Siting. And I'm presiding today, and I'm joined by Commissioner Mary Pat Regan and Commissioner Andrew Wood. Attending by video conference is John Lyons, Deputy Secretary of the Energy and Environment Cabinet, who is proxy for Secretary Rebecca Goodman, and Jensen Hammock, who is proxy for Jeff Noel, Secretary of Economic Development Cabinet. We have two other ad hoc members that have not joined us yet, but hopefully they will join us soon, and we'll join them remotely as well. They are Judge Executive Michael Williams and Micah Joyner. At this time, I would ask anyone who has their cell phone with them to turn it off or put it on silent. And today's hearing is for the purpose of taking evidence in this matter, and we can have appearance of counsel now. First, the applicant.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, board members. On behalf of Mantle Rock Solar, Todd Osterloh, Rebecca Price, and Pete Dooley with Sturgill, Turner, Barker, and Maloney. And we anticipate having 4 or 5 witnesses today. A few familiar faces to start off with: Richard Kirkland, Paul Coombs, and Marty Marcheterre. And then we'll also have Project Manager Jade Cessna testify. And then we also have a Project Manager, Daniel Smith, available if anything comes up during the hearing that he would be best to testify to.
And is that the order you'll call them in?
That is correct.
Gotcha. Okay. And for staff?
Nicole Carr.
Okay. I've been advised that public notice has been given and filed into the record.
Yes, Chair.
Any outstanding motions?
Not that I'm aware of.
Maybe one for confidential treatment?
Actually, I do think that's correct.
One
There is
for
one that hasn't been ruled on.
We'll get a ruling on that hopefully very soon. All right. Are there people in the audience who came today for the purpose of giving public comment? No? Okay. I'll give it a look around and make sure no one came for the purpose of giving public comment. I don't see anyone waiting online to give public comment, although we have phased out doing that because it became such a technical issue. I will note for the record that comments may be made and submitted on the record on PSC's website at psc.ky.gov. And if there's nothing further, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first witness is Richard Kirkland.
Good morning, Mr. Kirkland.
Good morning.
You've already raised your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Tell us your full name and your business address.
Richard Kirkland, Jr., 9408 Northfield Court, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27603.
Okay, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Kirkland.
Morning.
What is the name of your company?
Kirkland Appraisals.
And what is your role there, your title there?
I'm the owner.
Okay. And can you describe to the citing board what your role has been with this case and this project?
I completed a solar farm impact property value analysis just to see if there's any impact on adjoining property values. I wrote the report.
Okay. And do you have any changes to that report that's been submitted?
No, I do not.
Do you adopt that information that's contained in that report as your testimony here today?
I do.
Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, staff.
Good morning, Mr. Kirkland. I have a couple questions for you. What was your ultimate conclusion as regarding the property values or the potential impact of the property values of the solar facility?
The conclusion is that we see no basis for any impact on adjoining property values.
You've been in front of the citing board numerous times, and based on your professional opinion and your research, what have you found that actually negatively affects property values?
Again, it's not that a solar farm couldn't cause a negative impact on property values. But what we look at is proximity as well as landscaping as the primary factors that address that issue. As listed later in the report, we go through we call it a hierarchy of values, of different uses or externalities that would cause impacts on property values. The biggest thing that would cause an impact on adjoining property values is hazardous materials, anything that can get into air, water, or soil. Those can cause negative impacts to adjoining property values, and solar projects just don't have that characteristic. So coming down from that, the next order of magnitude sort of is odor. Again, solar projects don't have odor issues, so again, odor is a primary factor that would impact adjoining property values. Then we have noise, and just going sort of down the list of smaller and smaller potential impacts. After noise is traffic, stigma, and then ultimately appearance. And appearance is the only area that we're really concerned with solar projects. And so you address appearance issues through distance and visual blockers, so landscaping and distance. And at the distances that are here at this project, we see no basis for an impact on property value to adjoining uses.
There are several homes that are fairly close to the project boundary line, 97 feet, one residence, and 98 feet for another residence. Is it still your opinion that even with 97 feet and 98 feet that those will not have property values be affected in a negative way?
I believe the homes you're identifying are participating in the project itself.
They're non-participating.
The closest one I've got identified is 360 feet away.
This is just to the boundary line, like to the fence line.
Yeah, again, we measure the distance from home to panel, and the reason we do that is because early when we started doing this research, we were looking at property line boundaries, but adjoining homes are very different in their proximity to those property lines, because we were originally looking at buffers off of those, but we found an adjoining home that was 4 feet off the property line, and which wound up making it about 54 feet from the nearest panel. So we determined early on that measuring from property lines was not a good buffer. It was better to identify panel to home because it more accurately addressed the proximity of the house to the project. So again, the closest home we identified when we used that statistic that we used to measure by is 360 feet. And that is certainly sufficient to protect property value.
What was the most recent home sale that you looked at in Kentucky?
That will take me a second, but I can identify that. So on page 126, the sale-resale analysis, the most recent one of those that we looked at in Kentucky would have been from, looks like 2024, March of 2024. And on the matched pair analysis, in Kentucky specific, looks like 2022, January. And broker comments, most recent one we have in Kentucky would have been March 2024.
For the match pair analysis that was in 2022, could you tell us a little bit about that, or have you attempted to do any more current updates to that?
We have, in 2025, we have gone back through and looking at the data. We just didn't have any sales adjoining solar projects for us to look at.
Okay.
Again, until a property sells next to one of the existing facilities, there's just nothing for us to measure. So again, we would not have gone back and re-looked at that 2024 sale a second time after we did it the first time.
Okay. No further questions.
Commissioner Wood,
No questions.
Commissioner Reagan.
I don't.
I don't have questions either. Any redirect? Oh, I'm so sorry. Sorry. Creature of habit. Deputy Secretary Lyons, do you have any questions?
Just one. Mr. Kirkland, that standard that you use in terms of proximity to panels versus the border? I mean, is that a standard methodology in terms of looking at impacts that other companies use as well in the industry?
Again, with the other appraisal groups that I work with, because I intersect with a lot of different MAIs and appraisers in other states, and this is a standard that we all use, but there is no specific industry standard as far as how you would measure this. There is no standard using property lines as a standard either. There isn't one.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Hammack?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any reason this witness can't be excused? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're excused.
And our next witness is Dr. Paul Coombs.
Good morning, Dr. Coombs.
Morning.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please be seated. Tell us your full name and your business address.
Paul Coombs, 3604 Trail Ridge Road, Louisville, 40241.
Okay, counsel.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Coombs. You are a professor emeritus from the University of Louisville, is that correct?
That's correct.
And your specialty is in what?
Regional economics, economic measurement, several other things, but for this purpose, regional economics.
And did you prepare a report considering the economic impact of this project that's been filed in the case?
I did.
Okay. And did you also supplement that report or revise it based on questions through data responses?
I did, and thank you all for some of the edits and errors you caught. We cleaned it up there in November.
And you also sponsored other responses to data requests in this case, correct?
Yes.
Did you adopt all that information as your testimony here today?
I do.
Thank you, Dr. Coombs. That's all the questions I have at this time.
Staff.
Good morning, Dr. Coombs.
Good morning.
Ultimately, you concluded that this project will have a benefit, positive economic benefit to Livingston County. Is that correct?
That's true.
How would you compare this project as far as the number of full-time jobs to your typical project?
Well, the number of jobs for construction and for operations are pretty much a proportionate ratio to the megawatt capacity of the project. And so I think I've looked at 12 or 14 of these, and it's pretty consistent. So this is a fairly small one compared to the other ones I've looked at, 42 megawatts. So we're only predicting about 100 direct construction jobs, and I think about 1.5 operations jobs for 30 years. But that is right in line with the others if you control for how the magnitude of the capacity of the generating plant.
Have you been able to sort of do a comparison of, based on your estimate numbers for reports that you have done in the past, and when the facility is actually built, to determine if those numbers are actually accurate or at least close?
This comes up, it seems like every hearing, and it's a great question, and the short answer is no. It would, as I've said before, the only practical way I know to do this, it would be to pull the unemployment insurance payments from the different contractors on the job, and actually, because it's all proprietary, there is no public database available where people have to report proprietary data. So we don't have access through federal, state databases to actually know what actually happens there. You would need access. Somebody like me would have to be deputized to go into the unemployment insurance records, where you got social security numbers and the payment every quarter for their wages, and then the tax that's pulled out. And it's about place of work, so it would be, Livingston County in this case. But as far as I know, no one's ever done that in Kentucky, which is why I keep going back to this California study, because it's the most solid thing I've seen, where they did have proprietary information on 6 different solar projects. And so I used their ratio of generating capacity to construction and operations jobs to make my estimates for all of these.
No further questions, Chair.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Lyons.
Yes, just one. Dr. Coombs, and excuse me before I ask this question if it's kind of rambling, but oftentimes it's a land use issue that people are concerned about, particularly taking agricultural land out of agricultural use. And there's a section, obviously, in your report regarding lost economic activity from farming. Can you just give us an overview of that for the record about what you look at, what the considerations are, and the conclusions from that?
Sure. So, as with the other question, we have no access to how many farm jobs are actually there on the ground today. That would be proprietary. So, the method that I've used to measure the economic effect of the loss of agricultural activity is to get a rough idea of the acreage that's being used for agriculture, and then hopefully some division into how much of it is corn versus soybeans versus, in one case it was tobacco, sometimes there's a lot of cattle and hay, etc. So we get a sort of a breakout of the current agricultural use by acre. Then I look at the U.S. Agricultural Census, which comes every 5 years, and they have beautiful statements for agricultural activity in every county. And so there I can go and look at, in this case, Livingston County, and see what the corn yields are per acre for the county, soybean yields per acre, also look at price per bushel of these things, apply that to the project, and then that gives me an estimate of the cash receipts coming out of this property. So can't tell you how accurate it is, but I think the method is pretty solid. And I think it was about $150,000 of cash receipts I'm predicting coming out of this few hundred acres. And remember, in many cases for these projects, a lot of the property is actually in forest, timberland, et cetera. It's not all arable or in production. But so anyway, once I get that estimate, then I run it through our economic modeling system for Livingston County to predict the related employment and the income that would go to the owners, the farmers there. And so, yeah, that's the approach I use to balance the benefits, the economic benefits of the solar operation, and also the lease payments that generate some positive economic impacts locally against the loss of farming activity. So, is that enough? That's the overview.
So essentially, I think most of this property is tillable land. So in essence, the lease payments to the property owner are essentially more than can be made from row crops. Is that an accurate statement?
Exactly. In this case, it is. I actually went to the public hearing down there about 2.5 years ago, and so I saw the land. It looked like pretty rich soil around there and very tillable. So it looks like a wash in this case between the income and jobs from agriculture versus the economic activity from the new lease payments. Another sort of more subtle aspect of that is farm income is highly variable. In Livingston County, there are many years where farm income is actually negative. In the case of the lease payments, of course, they're guaranteed as long as the project is operational for 30 years. So from the farm owner's point of view, just from a financial point of view, this is a pretty easy choice to take a guaranteed, fairly high amount of income, and you have no agricultural work to do, as opposed to taking the risk of planting crops and hoping that prices hold up, et cetera. Agriculture is full of variability, whereas a lease payment is pretty constant.
Thank you, Dr. Coombs. That's all I have, Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Hammock?
Hi, Dr. Coombs. I wanted to just follow up a few questions about the agricultural analysis as well. The first one is just that correct me if I'm wrong, but the analysis is under the assumption that all the agricultural activity on the site would cease after the project is developed. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so if there were certain agricultural activities that were allowed to continue after the project was developed, then the net benefit of the project would actually be greater than what the analysis shows?
That's true, and another wrinkle that sometimes comes up is the possibility of using sheep to do a lot of the mowing, which would be another agricultural activity, which would kind of mitigate the loss of corn and soybeans and cattle. So, but at a higher level, we're talking about, 1, 2, 3, 4 jobs. This is very minor in the scheme of the whole impact of the project. But I mean, it's a good technical question, but I don't. You could double or triple these numbers, and it wouldn't affect the economic viability of the project.
All right, those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Commissioner Woods.
I don't have any questions, Chair.
Commissioner Reagan?
Just one, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
You said you've been involved in about 14 of these.
I think so.
Do you have any idea from your experience how long it takes for any of these revenues to start flowing into the different school systems and
Oh,
that kind of thing? Have you had any, be followed up on any of that?
no, I mean, I can fairly well predict. So in this case, there's an occupational tax in the county.
Yep.
So the immediate, as soon as construction starts, the county executive should be seeing
Seeing
some
that.
occupational taxes. Their school does not levy an occupational tax. So then we're waiting for the property tax to be assessed. Now, I guess your question is, how long after construction do we turn it on and the PVA gives it a valuation and somebody gets a tax bill? But that should be within a year or two, I would think. There may be somebody in, one of the developers knows exactly, but it shouldn't be long, a couple years at most, I would think.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, Dr. Coombs, you often reference the California study,
Yes,
and you were saying that we don't have one in Kentucky because we don't have access to the proprietary information that California was able to analyze. What would it take for Kentucky to have similar access and get a similar study?
well, one possibility would be to contact the engineering, procurement, construction firms that do this and ask for it. I'm not, they would have no legal obligation to provide it. So you could
Yeah.
try, but I would doubt you would get enough to draw any great conclusions with any precision. So I would think, if I was the governor, say, and this became very important to know, I would direct the agency that collects the unemployment insurance information, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, Education Workforce maybe, wherever the unemployment insurance system
Right.
is based now, and they have analysts, and they can see all this, and they flow in every quarter, and each employer, these construction firms, et cetera, they've got a unique ID and an industrial code assigned to them, and they have to provide the names, social security numbers of employees, the amount of payroll they paid them that quarter, and then there's a tax against that they have to remit to state and federal agencies. So that would be my best estimate of a way to do it, and you would just have to assign some people to it for a few months to dig into it, and you should be able to see, the timeline as things start happening there.
Yeah. So what sort of group did it in California? Was it a nonprofit or a university group, or was it just the government?
Oh, no, it was University of California,
That's what I
Berkeley.
was thinking, yeah.
A professor there did that. Now, I can't tell you exactly how he got the information from the companies, but he had very detailed, for 6 different large
Yeah.
solar plants, solar projects. So he had the number, the full-time equivalent construction workers. He had their average wages. He had their fringe benefits. I mean, the whole thing for each one of these projects. And then he also had the data on operations of these and how many people are employed and how much they were paid, which is actually a little bit higher than the construction workers.
Yeah.
So,
And so it might take a legislative action to make that available to order someone to provide it, or maybe an executive order from the governor. Okay.
yeah.
And then that would be much more accurate for Kentucky than the only study you have access to is from a continent away.
The only study what?
The only study you have access to is from the other side of our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, ever since I've started doing these, I keep an eye out looking for new studies. And you find things, and then you dig into it, and you find out it was just like a developer making a projection, just guessing. You know, there was no actual data, or it was sort of promotional material, you know, pretty high level, not what you want at all. It's the most solid thing I've found, and I keep asking, anybody sees anything better, let me have it, but
Okay.
I don't think there is.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I really don't think it, I think these numbers that we're using are reasonably workable to give you some comfort that there's positive economic impact in the community from the solar project. I don't see anything controversial there, you know, whether it's half as much or twice as much, it's still going to be a net positive from everything I've seen on really all these projects. So many of them are in rural communities that have really not had much job growth at all for 10, 20 years. And so, and the farming activity, yes, it's important, but it doesn't generate quite as much economic activity as the solar projects by pretty much any yardstick you want to use, in my judgment.
All of the estimates in your report for impact, for labor income, for, well, not for labor, but for new property tax revenues, all the economic development besides the immediate labor impact from the construction jobs, go for the life of the project, right? So like over 30 years, there would be 2.7 in new property tax.
Yes, so I didn't do the property tax projections. And that's actually, I could roughly get it, but thankfully there was a tax accountant, I believe it was Tim Leiffelder in this case, who I think is the best in the business. And I was supplied with his calculations, his spreadsheets, and I relied on his calculations. He's really good. He's a tax lawyer, and he does a lot of these industrial revenue bonds. He works both sides. He's very objective, and he's a lawyer, so he has to defend the stuff in court and with the Kentucky Department of Revenue. So I think, you're not going to get any better numbers than what Tim provides.
When counties do the IRB or pilot projects, pilot agreements, does that see a more immediate influx of money than over 30 years? Does the pilot project, like, what is the advantage of doing a payment in lieu of taxes in comparison to just waiting the 30 years for the full tax benefit?
Well, you don't wait for the tax benefit. So you're saying compare the difference between an IRB and no IRB? Is that what you're asking?
Well, that was a very poorly asked question
Okay.
on my part. I'm just, so this county has not done yet an IRB. And, I'm just wondering what would be the benefit if they went ahead and did it? Do they see the money sooner? Or like, what, lots of counties do them and then some don't. And I'm just curious, what's the reason that they would be encouraged to do that?
Certainly, it's typically a benefit to the developer to have the IRB because they can get financing at a cheaper interest rate by the county owning the project, which is a nonprofit, et cetera, and they can issue bonds and get better financing than the company, presumably anyway, it's typically true, than the company could get in the private markets. And so, but because, you know how this works, because then the county owns the project, therefore there's no property taxes flowing to the county or the school system because it's off the tax rolls because it's not private anymore. So that's why the companies often, not often, I think in every case, offer to do a payment in lieu of taxes to offset the money that would have gone to the school system. And it's kind of a wash, whether they get the property tax money without an IRB or they get the pilot with an IRB, it's a wash to the school system. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah. Okay, so the benefit is to the developer and to encourage someone to develop in the county.
I think so.
Not necessarily more money for the county.
I think so.
Thank you.
Other people may have other comments, but that's the way I see it.
Okay. Any further questions from any of the commissioners online or?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Any redirect?
No redirect.
Any reason this witness can't be excused? Thank you, sir. You're excused. Next witness.
And our next witness will be Marty Marcheterre.
Commissioner, can we take about a 5-minute break?
Sure, absolutely. Yep, 5-minute break. Actually, let's call it 10.
Thank you.
Sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony? Oh, let's get back on the record. You're back on the record?
We are.
Yeah.
We're on.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you very much. Thanks for bearing with me. Please have a seat. Tell us your full name and your business address.
My name is Marty Marcheterre, and I'm with Copperhead Environmental Consulting, and our address is 133 Walton Avenue, Lexington, Kentucky, 40508.
Okay, and I will note for the record that Judge Executive Williams has joined us. I think he may have had a little trouble getting online. Can you hear us okay, Judge Williams?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Well, if you want to just keep your microphone muted, I will call on each of us in turn to ask questions after the direct examination and then our staff. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Marcheterre. What is your title with Copperhead?
I'm a senior environmental planner.
And can you describe to the siting board what your role has been in this project?
On this project, we've been working on a lot of the different environmental studies, such as glare, noise, wetlands delineations, habitat assessments, this netting. So mostly on the environmental side, but also noise and visual impacts.
And you've assisted in the preparation of, as well as supervised the preparation of several of the reports that were submitted with the application, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
And did you sponsor responses to data requests in this case?
Yes, I have.
And do you have any changes to the information that's been presented that hasn't otherwise been corrected in the record?
No.
Did you adopt that information as your testimony here today?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have at this time.
All right, staff?
If I ask you any questions and there's a better witness that can answer those questions, just please let me know, okay?
Oh, sure.
All right. Are you the best witness to talk a little bit about the landscaping and the site layout?
Not as maybe on the site layout. I mean, I do know it very well from all of our studies. But yes, we can describe it, and if I can't answer it, I'll recommend you talk to Jade.
How would you describe this project? I know there's only one landowner that owns 562 acres, is that correct?
Correct.
As far as the layout, this project, of course, is described as contiguous, is that correct?
Yes.
What about, are you able to speak to the karst issues?
Yes, there's been an initial sort of karst desktop study, and, as in all of Kentucky, there's always potential karst issues. The initial desktop study identified a few locations, but it's really where the ponds, there's a few ponds on site, and those are the ones where they identified as potential karst. The intent is that there'll be, more detailed studies for geotechnical to look to see if there is any karst. And if, more sinkholes, openings, we did not see other ones other than possibly under some of the ponds there, that might have been a sinkhole. And the intent was that if there is more karst, they would just develop mitigation measures to try and minimize the impact of karst.
What is the typical setback that's used for karst when there's a karst issue?
We usually recommend it's at 25 feet from like an open sinkhole. And then, it can be more. Sometimes it's 50, but usually it's 25.
As far as, I know the consultant for this case discussed in their report a little bit about the glare from the solar panels to the home. Could you give us sort of the conclusion about the glare and the potential that it would have to the homes that are in close proximity of the solar facility?
Yeah, we did. There was a glare study done, and the study basically showed no glare, no green, yellow, or red glare. So, and it was basically 13 observation points, which was really the nearby houses. So there was no glare issues for to the individual houses, and or on like 6 segments of the nearby roads. So glare was not an issue on this project.
As far as your other environmental reports that has been conducted, were there any concerns as far as bats or anything like that?
Well, we did a bat mist net study, and we did not capture any Indiana bats, northern long-eared bats, or even proposed tricolored bats. We did capture some, sort of more common species, evening bats, red bats. We caught one big brown bat. But so bats were not a concern on this. U.S. Fish and Wildlife have reviewed the report and approved the report. It's not the formal consultation. That would occur probably when we're doing any core permitting.
I think I have any further questions of this witness at this time.
Okay, and Deputy Secretary Lyons?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Mr. Marchetair. A follow-up question on the karst. You noted, and I noted in the record, that a desktop analysis had been done and recommendation for field reconnaissance be done. Has that field reconnaissance occurred?
No, not yet. It's anticipated, probably during this year.
But from all of your desktop, I mean, this is if there's any karst, it's very sparse to the project area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. As far as the wetland delineation, I think there was like 10, almost 11 acres of jurisdictional wetlands and some 8,600, almost 8,700 of linear feet of jurisdictional streams. What is the plan for addressing those jurisdictional streams during project construction?
Well, the intent is to put, the way that it's designed is to put a 25-foot buffer around each of those jurisdictional streams. There's four intermittent and one perennial stream. And then of the wetlands, 26 are right now considered potentially jurisdictional, and they've all been avoided with a buffer around them. And so the intent is that in addition to that, during construction, we'd have a SWIP, a stormwater pollution prevention plan. The intent is to try and avoid or minimize any impact, direct or indirect, to any of the jurisdictional features.
Do you anticipate any U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permitting under 404 at all?
Right now, we still haven't, there's a chance for possibly a crossing, but not for, and even those we're trying to avoid the crossing if we can.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have a question on the mist netting survey. I did look at that. I assume no acoustics were used in that.
No, on this one we just did the mist netting.
Yeah. I do want to commend the developers for avoiding taking of forest. We have seen a tremendous amount of forest taken in some of these projects, and I was really pleased to see that only less than an acre would be disturbed. So that's very good. Can you, Mr. Marchetair, can you speak to the cultural surveys?
I can. For this project, cultural resource analysts did both a desktop for archaeology, desktop for cultural historic, more structures. And then due to the nature where we were, they also did a letter report on the Trail of Tears, probably because there's a scenic byway.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to point to. I was very interested in the proximity of the project to what was thought to be at least some portion of the Trail of Tears and the history there, which is very fascinating if you look back on it, and tragic as it may be. Can you just kind of summarize the proximity of this project to Trail of Tears and Mantle Rock itself? I was unaware of the geologic feature of Mantle Rock and obviously where the name of this project came from.
Right, we're about 5 miles from Mantle Rock, the nature preserve, and it's a cultural site also. And that's part of the northern Trail of Tears, one of the northern routes, which was along the Ohio. But we had cultural resource analysts, partly because there is a scenic byway road signs. You can see it in, sort of in the areas. But after their analysis, they determined that there's no documentation or anything that this area was right close to where the Trail of Tears probably really went through. I mean, there's no, based on the records they could find. So they basically said that shouldn't be a concern with this project. And then, so if there's more detail, I can certainly give you a little more if you need it.
No, that's fine. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Mr. Hammack?
I think Deputy Secretary Lyons covered all the questions I had, so I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, anything from you, Judge Williams?
No, but he is correct. I mean, there's no questions. I've just always said it from the initial start that the naming of this project was not ideal. Mantle Rock is a natural historic landmarker, and naming a solar farm kind of project effort it's not a great idea. But other than that, no, he is correct. It's nowhere near that location or the Trail of the Tears.
Okay, thank you, Judge Williams. Anything, Commissioner Wood?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Reagan? Okay, and I don't have any questions either. Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Okay, any reason this witness can't be excused?
No.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And you may call your next witness.
Thank you. And our next witness is Jade Cessna. And even though Mr. Marchetair has been excused, he will be around for the rest of the hearing in case something comes up that we need to recall.
Thanks for that. Okay, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thanks. Be seated, and please tell us your full name and your business address, if you will.
My name is Jade Cessna. My business address is 1553 West Todd Drive in Tempe, Arizona.
Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Cessna. By whom are you employed?
Atlantica Sustainable Infrastructure,
And what is your title there with Atlantic?
project developer.
Okay, and can you describe to the citing board just what your role has been in this project?
Yes, I've been with this project since 2022, late 2022, and I have been the full cycle development, so starting from early acquisition of this project and hoping to be around through operations.
And you assisted in the preparation of information that was submitted in the application of this case, correct?
That's correct.
You've also sponsored responses to data requests?
That's correct.
Do you have any changes to the information that's been provided in this case that hasn't otherwise been indicated that needed to change?
I do not.
Okay, and do you adopt that information in your testimony here today?
I do.
Great, that's all the questions I have at this time.
Nicole. Ms.
Good morning, Ms. Cessna. If I ask you any questions and there's a better witness that can better answer that question, just please let me know.
Of course.
A revised site plan was submitted in response to staff second data request item 19. Is that the most up-to-date site plan for this project?
That is correct.
Do you anticipate there are any updates or changes to the site plan prior to operations?
Yes.
What type of changes do you expect?
We're in the preliminary design phase right now at about a 10% design. We will work up to a 30 and then a 60 and a 90% engineering design. So we have a lot more maturity for the design as well.
And so when it reaches those different degrees, like 30%, are you anticipating that could potentially change the project boundary size, the number of panels that could be utilized for the project?
All those things could change, yes.
What month and year do you anticipate construction will begin?
We hope to start construction Q1 of 2027.
How many months will construction take?
About 12 to 18.
How many months do you anticipate peak construction to last?
About 3 to 4 months.
How long is the operational life for this project?
30 years.
The total project acreage is listed as 562 acres. How many acres will actually be built upon?
We have about 400 acres fenced in at this time in the project boundary. Built on, I don't know the exact amount on the top of my head.
Okay. Would you be able to provide that in a post-hearing data request?
Yes, I do know the GCR is 35%, so that's the ground cover ratio.
Is there going to be an MV collection system for this project?
That's correct.
Is it going to be above ground or below ground?
Below ground.
Would you be able to provide in a post-hearing data request a map that includes the indication of where that MV collection system will be located?
We can do that.
Could you describe to the main entrance for this facility is going to be on Carsville Road, is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm looking at the consultant's report, and it indicates that there will be a lot of basically workers. How many workers do you anticipate on a daily basis coming through that main entrance point?
Are we able to grab the report for that, please? Thank you.
And it's the Harvey Economics Report, page 5-31.
Give me one moment.
That's what I'm referring to.
You said 5-1?
31.
5-31. Could you repeat your question for me, please?
So it says in his first dot, under his first little dot, it says on average 50 to 100 workers will be traveling to and from. Do you believe that's an accurate indication of how many workers will be arriving through that site?
I do believe that, yes.
And it says 9 delivery trucks, 8 tractors and trailers, and 1 medium dump truck on a.
That is what we anticipate at this point, but more mature numbers will be able to come once we start working with the EPC.
And during peak construction, he indicates that 15 to 30 delivery vehicles are anticipated daily. Do you
Yes.
believe that's accurate?
I do believe that.
Do you know the distance from the home, the closest home to that main entrance point?
I do not off the top of my head.
During the site visit, it was indicated that there was a possibility that that home was vacant.
The one across the street?
Directly across from that main
one,
entrance?
Yeah, that one is vacant.
How were you able to indicate that no one resides in that home?
I have not been able to get into contact with anybody. I have visited the site many times and tried to approach that area as well, and haven't gotten any responses to knocks on the door.
Have you attempted to mail anything to that home?
I can't remember, did we? That was part of the list that we mailed to, yes.
Are you able to say with absolute certainty no one resides in that home?
I could not say that for absolute certainty.
Are there any structures that are going to be demolished during construction?
No, ma'am.
Has a stormwater prevention plan been completed for this project?
Not yet, but we anticipate to do that.
At what point do you believe that will happen?
We'll be working with the EPC to do so.
How was it determined which areas needed vegetative screening and those areas that did not need vegetative screening?
This question would be better directed towards Mr. Marty.
Okay. Are all native plant species going to be used for this project, or is that better for Marty?
Better for Marty, yep.
Okay. What type of fencing is going to be used for this project?
Just metal fencing.
Is there going to be any type of mesh installed with that fencing?
No.
What will the spacing be between the rows of panels?
4.2 meters.
How high will the bottom of the panels be from the ground?
That I do not know.
We're requesting that in a post-hearing data response.
Of course.
What will the ground cover under the panels be?
That I would have to provide in the
Okay.
post-hearing response.
Are the access roads that are going to be used or built for this project, are they all going to be gravel?
We anticipate that right now, yes.
And all those access roads will be on the participating landowner's property?
That's correct.
Will the project substation have its own fencing?
That's correct.
What precautions will be taken to ensure that those access roads don't erode during the life of the project?
We'll do regular maintenance of those those roads during the project operations.
Has there been any request to change or add vegetative screening from non-participating landowners?
I have talked extensively to the church that is on in the middle of the project about the vegetative screening. They haven't asked for changes in what we have proposed, but they've asked if we were going to do vegetative screening, so I was able to talk them through the process and what we were anticipating doing.
And what is, as far as the vegetative screening, for that church, is that considered standard or heavy?
It's considered heavy, I believe, but Marty would be able to confirm that.
Are you aware if during the clearing of the forestry, are there going to be any mature trees or shrubs that are cleared?
That'll be a question for Marty as well.
Is the BET system going to be monitored 24/7 once it's installed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where does that monitoring occur?
So we will have kind of 3 lines of monitoring for the BEST system. We will be monitoring it in our Tempe, Arizona office with operations managers. We will hire someone to be on site. That will be part of our operational team that we hire post-construction and operations. And then I've also talked extensively with the local fire, the Burna Fire Department, and ensured that they were comfortable with something like this in their community, and they were receptive to the idea.
What type of training is going to occur for those local fire and rescue officials?
Yeah, we anticipate doing multiple trainings with the fire departments and including everybody in the area, as we understand that there are multiple townships that could benefit and help in case of emergency. And so we will make sure that our guidelines are in line with standards of battery operation and maintenance.
And so will that training occur like via manual, or will there be somebody like a hands-on?
Hands-on training in person. Yep, exactly.
How often will training occur?
It can happen as often as requested by the fire department, as we understand that there will be turnover, and we're happy to provide training when asked for.
If there is an issue with the system or with a solar panel, please explain to the siting board, what is the process? Who is alerted?
Yes, ma'am. If there's an issue with the battery storage facility, there are automatic procedures that happen within the battery unit to ensure that all the other batteries don't have any other issues. So there's automatic fire safety that happens within the unit. But upon the unit being triggered, our operations in Arizona would be notified, and our operations on the ground would be notified as well.
And so at what point is, say for instance, there's a fire, at what point and who would notify the local fire officials?
Can I provide that response in the post-hearing response?
Now, as far as a solar panel, if there's an issue with a solar panel, who is alerted and how are they alerted?
Can I offer that or put it to Mr. Smith as well?
In Livingston County, there's no planning and zoning. Since this application was filed, however, a local ordinance was adopted that requires a 500-foot setback. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would this project be able to comply with that setback even though it was not in effect at the time this application was filed?
We are currently not anticipating complying with that setback specifically, but that is something that we can work with if requested by the judge executive in the county.
In Mantle Rock's response to the consultant report, I believe the consultant recommended, later has changed, but recommended a 400-foot setback. In Mantle Rock's response, they were in opposition to that. If the closest residence is 409 feet away, what is Mantle Rock's opposition, or how would you explain that to the siting board?
Can I have Mr. Smith answer that question?
Yes.
Or Marcia Terry, yep.
Is he also the best witnesses regarding the distances, like to the closest fencing and panel?
Which he? Are you Mr.
Marty.
Marcheter?
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah.
Marcheter. Can you please explain to the siting board, outline some of the contact you've had with local officials there in Livingston County?
Yeah. When I was part of the early stages of this project in 2022, I spoke extensively with the previous judge executive and the previous superintendent as well. And as we had some transitions, I have had conversations in length in person with the current judge executive, Mr. Williams, and then the current superintendent, Ms. Ramage, as well. And then I have been able to speak with all adjoining landowners but one that I've had a hard time getting into contact with. And then I've been able to go to the local church and speak to what I think is the entire congregation and the pastor.
And when you say the adjoining landowners, there are several that are like 445 feet away, 409 feet away. When you have conversations with them, are they aware that the solar facility is going to be 409 feet away or 448 feet from their residence?
I don't believe that they're aware of the exact distance from their residence, but they are aware that the solar facility is happening, and they've asked some questions about it, but really nothing has come up.
There are public meetings were held there in Livingston County in 2023, in September 28th, and also another one in November, on November 2nd, 2023. How come no meetings were held in 2024 or 2025 to let residents know of this facility?
I was not a part of the project at this time, so I will not be able to speak on that, but I believe Mr. Marcheter will be able to.
And so when this application was filed, Mantle Rock was an affiliate, which is now an affiliate of Atlantica, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so when it was initially, the very beginning stages, it was by, is it Effernan?
Interfin.
Interfin
Yep.
Renewables.
Yes.
Can you please explain to the siting board at what process, what point was this project actually sold to Atlantica?
Yes, this project was acquired by Atlantica in December of 2024.
Have you been the project worker on this even when it was with the prior company?
I was, yes, but again, I was not with the project in 2023 and 2024, parts of it.
Were there any requests from non-participating landowners to add vegetative screening?
Not that I know of.
Have there been any requests from anyone in the community or officials to change the actual project layout?
Not that I know of.
Can you describe to the siting board the outreach that has been done to those local residents in close proximity of the home, of the solar facility?
Yeah, several attempts to make phone calls, and that is how most of my conversations have happened with the adjoining landowners. And then, of course, the public meetings, which I can't speak much to.
Are you able to answer questions regarding the interconnection?
I can.
Can you please explain to the siting board what phase this project is in regarding the interconnection process?
We're in phase 2.
What studies have been completed?
Our phase 1 interconnection study has been completed. We will be anticipating our phase 2 study here soon. And then after that, we'll get to the LGI stage, the generation interconnection agreement.
Have all studies that have been completed been submitted to the siting board?
I can't fully answer that. I'm not sure, yeah.
We'll be requesting those in
Yeah.
a post-hearing data request if any have not been submitted.
No problem.
Who will own the transmission line?
Big River's Electric,
Who is going to pay the interconnection cost?
Atlantica.
How long is the gen-tie expected to be?
I'd have to look back at our notes if we have the design. Do we have that? Or we can provide it in the post-hearing response.
Is that transmission line going to be above ground or below?
There's an existing above-ground transmission line, but the line that will connect the transmission line to the substation will be underground.
Is the transmission line, that gen-tie line, going to be totally located within the footprint of the project?
That's correct.
Where will the transmission line begin at?
Can I provide that in the post-hearing response?
Is there any possibility that the route that the transmission line is going to connect to the substation will change?
There is a possibility, yes.
Is it Atlantica's intent to keep and manage this project?
That is our intent.
Does Atlantica have any other solar projects here in Kentucky?
Not in Kentucky, but we have operating facilities in California and Arizona.
Does Mantle Rock have any employees?
Not Mantle Rock LLC.
The person that signed the certificate of compliance was Frederick Riddell. Is he employed by Atlantica Development?
He is.
Are all the employees for the project going to be employed by Atlantica?
That's correct.
Who will hire the employees for construction? Will it be Atlantica or
It'll be an EPC.
At what point in the process will the EPC be hired?
Will be hired. We are anticipating Q3 or Q4 of 2026.
Who will employ that EPC?
Atlantica.
What company will employ the individuals that will be responsible for ensuring compliance during construction?
I believe that will be Atlantica, but that might be a better question for Mr. Smith.
Is Atlantica owned or a subsidiary of another company?
That would be a better question for Mr. Smith.
In the application, the environmental record states that no entity with ownership interest has violated any federal or state environmental regulations. Was Atlantica LLC included in that response or just Mantle Rock?
I believe it was just Mantle Rock.
Are you aware if Atlantica has any environmental violations?
I'm not aware.
We'll be requesting that in a post-hearing data response. Has a purchase power agreement been executed for this project?
Not yet.
As far as the decommissioning, could you explain the process that will be taken to ensure that the soil quality will be maintained so that it will be useful for agriculture after this project ceases to operate?
That would be a question for Mr. Marty.
Okay. Do the lease agreement with the participating landowner contain removal of the underground components?
It does not.
And is the underground component will be the transmission line would stay during decommissioning?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Could you describe to the siting board about the complaint resolution program for this project?
Yes, so we have a website for this project, which is one way that folks will be able to access my personal work phone number and then my work email. I'll be the point of contact for complaint resolutions for this project. And we've outlined in our submission and our application the timeline that we'll work to ensure that complaints are addressed within 30 days, notwithstanding, the solution to whatever the complaint is takes longer than that.
When is the project website going to be operational?
It's operational right now.
How long has that been in effect?
It's been operational since this week is when we were able to get it up online. We had some technical difficulties.
So if a resident wanted to or needed to contact Atlantica regarding this project, how would they have done that?
Yeah, so there was a project website that existed under Interfin, and that was the main way that folks could contact for the project. Upon the Atlantica and Interfin acquisition, when I went out and traveled out to the project site, I just tried to give as many of my business cards and project information as I could to everybody who I was speaking to.
And who would be the point of contact? You said if say there's like a 1-800 number or email, would you be directly the point of contact for that?
Yes.
Has an IRB or a pilot program agreement been finalized for this project?
Not filed.
Are you in negotiations with the county official there?
That is confidential.
Do you intend to hire local officials for this project?
Could you define?
Local official, local construction workers for this project?
We intend to, yes.
What will you do working with the EPC to try to ensure or help ensure that local workers from the area will be hired?
Could you rephrase that question for me?
How will Atlantica help the EPC determine if enough local workers have been, because we've had several other projects before and it says ideally we would like to hire local officials, local construction workers, but what will you do to help ensure that they're able to pull from the local construction workers in the area?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to conversations with local workers and with the EPC to ensure that we can actually get boots on the ground when it comes to construction, and that training for this type of project is in place. So then the workers are experienced in doing a project like this.
How many full-time positions are there going to be once this project becomes operational?
About 1 to 2.
I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Okay. And Deputy Secretary Lyons?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Ms. Cessna. This is just I've had the opportunity to ask this question many times, but I don't think I've ever asked it. What goes into site selection for a solar developer, or particularly your all's company? What are the things you look for in a site, and what are the things you try to avoid?
Yeah. So as mentioned previously, we acquired this project and its footprint from Interfin Renewables. So we did not select this site specifically, but we as a company prioritize land, what the current land use is, understanding if there is actual capacity in the grid for a project to be built, and understanding what permitting regulations we would have to adhere to in order to get to the project built.
So, I mean, as far as topography, I assume you look for more flat to rolling land rather than something more elevated. Is that a good assumption?
That is a good assumption.
And so that's why agricultural land probably makes row crop type of land makes a better site than maybe other sites. Is that a good assumption as well?
That is.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No other questions, Madam Chair.
All right, Mr. Hammock.
Yes, I just have one question. Will there be any grazing or agricultural activity that continues after the project is developed?
Right now, we do not anticipate that, but we have looked into it.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. Judge Williams, do you have any questions for this witness?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Wood?
I'll ask a couple of questions. Did you say that this project has battery storage associated with it?
It does.
And how do you decide which projects get considered for battery storage and which ones don't?
Market demand.
And tell me about market demand and how that market works and sort of the thumbnail view of the economics of battery storage versus just straight panels.
Yeah, so this project was anticipated originally to be a bit bigger than what it is now. And so as we have matured in the transmission process, we've had to reduce the size of the project. So adding battery storage has allowed us to make this more economically feasible because it allows us to discharge energy on off-peak periods, which is not something that we're able to do as easily with the solar panels.
And so what makes the battery storage economically better for this development than not having it?
It'll allow us to be more financeable when we get to that point in the project.
More attractive to lenders?
Exactly.
And so is this being financed through bonds like was discussed earlier, or is this more of a bank loan?
We're hoping to do an IRB and pilot process that is in conversations right now.
A common theme through solar projects via public comments that we hear is the lamentation of losing prime farmland and things like that. And I understand both sides of that argument. Certainly, the owner of land is probably the best determiner of what's the best use of the land. On the other hand, the use will be set in stone probably long after the current owners passed away. Is there ever any consideration given to more marginal lands such as rolling land or hills, understanding that the cost of installation may be higher, but that the ongoing leaks may be cheaper? Can you tell me whether the company has explored using more marginal land instead of the bucolic farmland that gets referred to a lot?
Yes, we've explored both what would be referred to as greenfield and brownfield projects, and those brownfield projects would be more of what you're referring to.
And you all your company does look at those in terms of development?
Yep.
And how does that look? Is there any, from a regulatory point of view, we see hardly any, there's almost encouraging comments about, using former strip mines or more hilly areas. Do you anticipate any positive progress towards using more marginal land from your company's perspective?
I can't speak on behalf of my company's perspective.
I noticed when you were asked what were the positive characteristics of land for development, you did not mention proximity to transmission wires. Is proximity to transmission wires high on the list of?
That is also, yes.
Okay. Where does, you know what, I'm going to stop right there. That's all I'm going to ask. Thank you.
Okay. Anything, Commissioner Reagan?
Just one question. The battery storage, it's 4 hours?
Yes.
And to date, that's the largest battery there is. Am I correct?
Yes. Well, yeah, there's 4 and I believe 8 hours. I do want to preface that I'm not an engineer.
Okay. Would there be any reason to have a larger battery?
It depends on what we can connect into the grid, and
Okay.
this has been the best fit in what we've been analyzing in the transmission process.
Okay. And if it changed, could you change the batteries?
I believe that we have that flexibility, yes, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just a few questions. You were asked about potential grazing on the site, and
Yes.
don't really know if that's possible, I guess?
Not yet.
Okay. What about pollinator fields?
We do plan to have pollinator fields.
Okay. And how much total tree clearing will be done?
It is 0.2 acres. It's very minimal.
That's what I thought. And then, has there been any consideration for effects on wildlife migration or any request or attempt to make corridors for wildlife to go through the site, through the fencing?
That would be a question for Marty.
Okay, got it. All right. That's all the questions that I have. Anything else from the commissioners?
I had a
Staff?
few more questions. The closest non-participating residence to the fencing to the project boundary line is 97 feet. What conversations have you had with that resident?
Can we confirm which by name?
I have it as receptor number 5.
I don't know if I have that information.
It's on response to siting board staff, question 12, first request. Receptor number 5, distance to the project boundary, 97 feet.
Yes, if we can't find the information of the resident's name, we can provide that in the brief, or the response, sorry.
Do you know if you've had any conversations with that resident? It would be, that's 98, it's probably right beside the home, right beside receptor number 5.
Could you repeat that question?
Do you know if you've had any conversations with that resident? And resident 4 is 98 feet from the project boundary, and we have a resident 5 that's 97 feet away.
That's what I would have to confirm.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's all the questions I have.
Anything further from the commissioners online? All right.
No, Chair.
Redirect?
I think just one question, Ms. Esna, you were asked from staff about the consultant's report that initially indicated that they were recommending a 400-foot setback to residences and churches, correct?
That's correct.
And is it your understanding that the consultant has submitted a revised response to that indicating that they recommend a setback of 150 feet to residences and churches?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Any reason this witness can't be excused?
No.
She's lead witness, but,
She'll be around.
okay. So potentially, you could.
No problem.
Thank you, though. You may step down. And you may call your next witness.
Yes, let's call Daniel Smith next.
Mr. Smith, would you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated and tell us your full name and your business address.
My name is Daniel Smith. I work for Atlantica Sustainable Infrastructure. Address is 1553 West Todd. It's in Tempe, Arizona.
Counsel.
Thank you. And what is your title with Atlantica?
I'm a permit and land development manager.
Okay. And can you describe to the siting board just what your role is in this project?
Sure. I oversee permitting and land throughout the United States for all projects relating to Atlantica.
Okay. And I guess with that, I know there were some questions that Ms. Esna referred to you, so I'll turn the witness over for cross-examination.
Okay. Ms. Carr.
Mr. Smith, I believe these questions were deferred to you. What company will employ the individuals that will be responsible for ensuring compliance of the mitigation measures during construction?
The company that will employ the on-site folks you're talking about?
Yes, who will be responsible during the construction of the project? Who will be responsible? The siting board will have various mitigation measures. Who will be responsible to make sure those construction workers comply with those mitigation measures? What company?
Mantle Rock Solar, LLC would be responsible.
Who will employ the individuals that will be responsible for ensuring compliance during the operations?
Mantle Rock Solar.
Is Atlantica owned, wholly owned, or is it a subsidiary of another company?
Atlantica is wholly owned.
Are you aware if Atlantica has any environmental violations?
I'm not aware, no.
I believe that's all the questions I have for Mr. Smith.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Lyons?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Mr. Hammack?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Judge Williams?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Wood, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Reagan, any
I don't
questions?
have any.
And I don't have questions either for Mr. Smith.
No
Redirect? Any reason Mr. Smith can't be excused?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And would you like to recall?
With your permission, if we can call Marty Marchetair, please.
Yeah, unless anybody's going to request a break right now, I think we could go right ahead. I'll just remind you, you're still under oath.
That's fine.
And counsel, did you have any direct?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Carr?
How was it determined which areas needed vegetative screening and which areas did not need vegetative screening?
It was sort of a combination of factors. We have a landscape planner, Lucian Dearborn and Associates, that they actually did the work on that piece. And when they do it, a combination of, originally start looking at just the aerials and, LiDAR data, but they actually go out on site, fly a drone, try and look from nearby residences in the church to see what is visible. And so that was sort of the initial, how they decided to look to see what areas. And that's how sort of deciding which ones got sort of the heavier screening versus the standard. And no surprise, it's the areas around the church and the cemetery have more of the heavier screening. Those houses you mentioned, R4 and 5 to the north, that's sort of on the west side of Carsville Road, there's heavier screening on that area too. And then later, after the site visit, you could kind of look, there's one house that's off that one Quartermouse Road that's to the north of the project, it's a county road. There's one house at the far end that's a little bit elevated, and it looks up at a ridge line that mostly has trees in that ridge line. There's one gap, so based on going out on that site visit, we went back and revisited that and added a heavier screening through that gap. But that's how the initial was, and then along the roadways, not that we were anticipating any glare, but just to kind of provide screening. There's standard screening along the roads of Carsville Road, Maxfield Road. And so that's how we did it. And then there's heavier screening around both the battery storage and the transformer. There's only one house that sort of has nearby, and it's more than 1,500 feet away, and there's actually a ridge in the way, but just to be careful, we did put heavier screening around those two facilities too. And that's kind of how the initial thoughts were for the screening. We've, in discussions, no one has asked for additional screening or changes to it. As Jade has talked to the church and at the public meetings, we talked to church members, and they were just wanted to know if there was screening. They didn't ask for a specific. And then the difference between the heavy and light is really a difference in sort of the makeup of the trees. It's more of, the heavy screening is no surprise, it's a little more of the coniferous trees, fir trees. A little bit less no sumac, and then less of the smaller trees that are like the, bushes and things. There's a little bit less of that and more just heavier, the bigger trees to provide the thicker screening.
Are all the trees and shrubs that are going to be planted, that will be planted, are those all native?
That's correct. They're all native species, and then there's a mix of, we didn't want to just put fir trees. It's a mixture of some deciduous trees and bushes, sort of a combination, so it would be a little bit of a, not just a green wall, it'll be a mix of the green, fir trees are there, but there's additional, deciduous trees to have some color.
How long will it take those trees to reach maturity?
Maturity is sort of considered as it's about 6 feet, so it'll be about 4 years. But the trees that were selected, they're really going to be eventually, they'll be 15, and some will actually be up to 60 feet.
When is the landscaping proposed to be done during construction? At the end, at the last stage, or in conjunction with the rest of the site development?
It's usually, we try and do it sort of, and I'm speaking a little bit for Atlantica, but, the intent is usually start it during construction, so that it's not done after the fact. It's done sort of during, to kind of minimize even some of the construction impacts.
Livingston County has since adopted a local ordinance that requires our 500-foot setback. Could you explain to the siting board is it viable for this project to adopt a 500-foot setback?
That would probably be more of the design firm that's helping Atlantic on that. I mean, we had, the nearest houses to the solar panels, the nearest one is 409 feet. So it's close, but it would be if they can change things inside. And, it's always going to be a trade-off. If you do more of that, either we have to do smaller, it would have to be a smaller design, or there'd be potential impacts on streams and wetlands or things in the middle. So it's always a sort of a trade-off. The land we have is those 5 parcels.
What would the opposition to a 400-foot setback be if the nearest home is 409 feet away?
Some of that is just more the flexibility as we get to further design. This is a less, it's about a 10% design. So, things change during, as you get to further in design. So it's more for that flexibility. We're trying to just make sure they have flexibility during design if changes have to be made.
As far as the distance, the exact distance from the closest non-participating property, we have, according to staff request item 12, we have the closest non-participating to the fence line is 97 feet. Is that accurate?
That's right, to the fence line.
And to the panel is 409 feet?
Correct.
And from the inverter, 1,254 feet?
Correct.
The substation, 1,505 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what about the distance for the battery?
That's even farther. I believe that's like 1,900 feet. That's to that one receptor on Maxfield Road. And that house, really, there's actually sort of a ridge in between a little bit, so we don't think that has any real visibility.
Are you able to testify any to the sound level to those closest homes that are like 409 feet away?
We are. I mean, during operations, all of the operation sound levels are below 50 dBA. So after the facility is constructed, it'll be, operations is less than 50 dBA.
What about during construction?
During construction, that one's always a little tougher to come up with a number. We do it in the studies, but there's so many variables on true construction. But we did one where we did max of everything, saying at the closest spot, if all the equipment was running at the same time, we came up with numbers that I think the highest location was maybe 76, but usually it's depending on which engine we're using for pile drivers. There's 2 different ones. We'd originally used an 84 dBA for the pile driver, but after request to look back at it, the newer data is they actually have one engine that's lower sounding than that and one higher. So we've looked at multiple versions. But so the worst case, which was everything conservative, was probably in, worst case temporarily could be in the mid-70s. But otherwise it was lower 70s to the 60s. So for the 3 closest houses, which are in that 1,000 feet, it's probably a little over 60, it's going to be between 65 and 70 probably. But like I said, it's really tough to come up with one number, and that's why we don't recommend trying to do a noise contour map for operations. For construction, because it's not fixed. There's too many moving variables, plus, wind, topography, things like that.
Could you explain the process that will be taken to ensure that the soil quality will be maintained so that it will be useful for agriculture after the operation cease?
Usually as part of the decommissioning, the intent would be, they would do things to loosen up the soil again, because, there's been some compaction over the years. We haven't gotten to that specifics yet. As required, certainly could do further information, but based on all the other studies, there really hasn't been a concern from the, solar panels or equipment causing any soil contamination.
What is the ground cover under the panels going to be?
It's going to be all native grasses and forbs, so it'll be Kentucky native vegetation.
I believe this question was referred to you about local public hearings.
I attended the first two local public hearings.
And so you had a public hearing in 2023, and then in September 28th of 2023, and then another one in November of 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so was there any attempts to make the public aware of this project in 2024 or since the application was filed?
There was a slowdown in the project, so it was sort of, and I'm really sort of speaking a little bit for Enerfin, there was a little bit of slowdown, just as usual, people weren't sure what they were doing on the project, so it was sort of on a pause.
No further questions.
Okay. And did Deputy Secretary Lyons, did you have any questions for another round for Mr. Marcheterre?
Yes, Madam Chair, I did. I had
Okay.
one I kind of skipped over earlier. Mr. Marcheterre, I'm referring to request for information number 1, question 58 that was from Siting Board staff regarding groundwater protection plan. And the response was basically the Division of Water is evaluating whether solar projects have to have a groundwater protection plan. And I did check the regulation under 401 KR 5:037. In fact, that's very sector specific of what needs a groundwater protection plan, and solar projects are not in that. However, the response was that Division of Water was evaluating that. Do you know who that might be at the Division of Water who is evaluating whether solar projects would have to have one?
It wasn't required to have one. As you said in this, the regulations, it's not required. It's not one of those industries. It was more just because people have had concern with karst across the state. So it was going to be more of a voluntary or project specific. And right now, our understanding is no solar company has proposed one that's gone through the state for review. But the person, it's probably been a little while since I've talked to someone in your office. But they basically had said, we're considering maybe putting one together, just as a guidance. But that's where that is. And it's one of those things where if a project, there's a real concern from either the county or, one could be developed. But it's really going to be very similar to our, your stormwater prevention plan. It's going to be your BMPs. So it's really it may be almost another form of the BMPs plus your pollution prevention, spill prevention plans. It may be almost a combination of other plans that are, sort of fairly standard for a project.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with the stormwater protection plan. Probably has the same type of measures in it, which you all intend to have a stormwater protection plan, as I understand it.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Hammack?
Thank you.
All right. Judge Williams?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Wood?
No questions.
Commissioner Reagan?
I don't.
I had just one that was referred to you. I was asking about whether we needed, or if you'd considered a wildlife migration corridor. Is that something, is this a big hunting area?
Well, I mean, the county is. It's in the region with unlimited hunting for but not for this area. The landowner is not allowed hunting on his property before.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Any redirect?
Just a few. Mr. Marcheterre, there were questions about setbacks and distances to, I think, residences being over 400 feet. Do you recall what the distance between the Good Hope Church and the nearest panel would be under the current design?
I believe that one is. I'm trying to think. It's 220 feet. I think it's closer.
Okay. And so under the current design, the project wouldn't be able to comply with a 400-foot setback to a church, correct?
Correct. But actually, that's to the cemetery. Sorry, the church is a little farther than that.
But it would be able to comply with the revised recommendation by the consultant of 150 feet, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You were asked a question about whether there was information provided to neighbors or the local community more recently than the public meetings, I believe. Is it your understanding the notice was provided regarding this application before the application was filed?
That's correct.
And then there were some questions earlier about the transmission line. I'm hoping you can just kind of comment on that. So does the transmission line that the project will interconnect to run through the project site?
It does.
Okay. And so is it where in proximity to that transmission line is the project substation planned to be?
It's adjacent to the easement.
Okay. And so from the project substation to the utility switch yard, there will be a transmission line between those two places, correct?
There's a substation, and it'll be right to the transmission line from that.
Sure. So to the extent that the siting board has to approve a non-regulated transmission line in this case, do you know roughly what the distance of that would be?
It's 210 feet approximately.
So far shorter than some of the other projects that have been out there.
That's correct. And the initial design is to not even have a pole. It'd be just a T-line connection.
And essentially that line is all contained within the footprint of the project.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right, any recross? Anyone remotely have any recross? Okay, Commissioner Wood, Commissioner Reagan?
No.
All right, and I don't either. You may be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was that your final witness?
That concludes our testimony, yes.
All right. Any motions at this time?
No.
No.
Okay. I believe a final order would be due by February 21st. Is that right, Ms. Carr?
Yes.
Okay. And can you get a written summary of any post-hearing data requests to the applicant by January 13th?
Yes, Chair.
It's real soon, but
Yep.
you can do it? Okay. And if she can do that, Council, can you get responses by January 20th, you think?
I believe so. There's only one that I heard that I'm not entirely sure how long it would take to formulate a map, but my presumption is that we can accommodate that.
Right. And if there are delays, obviously, as usual, get what you can in and let us know when we'll get the rest
Understood, thank you.
to try and accommodate that deadline by February 21st. If you would like to file a brief, you are welcome to do so. I would suggest the date of January 15th.
Yes.
If you have a post-hearing brief that you would like to file but not required. I don't think we had any exhibits to deal with or any confidential material. Anything further?
None from the applicant.
Anything further?
No, Chair.
All right. In that case, we will be adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Are you guys on your way back to Arizona?